Oh, hello there. Hello. Hi. I'm starting a little bit later today. I hope you guys don't mind. But I was busy doing lots of things, as I have been this whole week. I've been a very busy Goomba. So hopefully my audio crackling is dealt with. But yeah, welcome. Hi. I'm starting a little bit late today. We have quite the rabbit hole to jump down, and I don't want anybody to panic. This stream is not going to be like 7 hours long like the last couple that we've done. Again, you might be wondering, oh, by the way, hi, I'm Chesh. Welcome to the channel. We talk about bullies here a lot of the time, unfortunately, because there's a lot of bullies on the internet, and there's a lot of people who, nobody in their right mind would listen to in any other circumstance except for the ones that they're in, Vic Mignogna being one of them. We're not going to discuss Vic himself too much today, just like kind of a little bit of a background, because I want to get into something that is a little bit more of a little bit of a bigger ongoing internet problem that I like to call screamy yelly men. That don't really tend to have a lot to say and don't really have any actual like solid morals nor principles that they follow. They just like to, they're like internet sensationalists. They're like the tabloids of the internet. We're gonna look at three today briefly, but I just kind of want to introduce you guys to them so that way when we dive into a little bit more over the next month or so, it will be like a little bit easier for you guys to understand who we're talking about, why they're talking about, what the overarching thing is, because as much as the company is a problem, they are very small potatoes comparatively, right? That their numbers aren't really that big, they're not really that impressive, they haven't really garnered any kind of like major following or anything like that. That reminds me, Crusher reminded me I needed to make sure they got modded. Enjoy your wrench. Don't forget to follow the rules. Rules. Enjoy your wrench. So, for anybody who doesn't know, I've been following the Vic Mignogna situation kind of tertiarily for a long time and then started talking about it a little bit more a few years ago. During my time when I was sort of scoping out what was going on as opposed to actively participating and talking about it, I noticed that there was a handful of creators that all jumped on this bandwagon. The main ones I'm going to look at today are the Yellow Flash, That Umbrella Guy, and Nick Rakita. Alright, so for anybody who doesn't know who any of these people are, Vic Mignogna was a voice actor, a very prolific voice actor, particularly in the early 2000s. He's the voice of, famously the voice of Broly, Edward Elric. He did a lot of animated, anime voice acting work. He's a Christian guy. He does a lot of, he does music. If you've ever watched One Piece, he did the English voiceover of One Piece after it got bought by not 4Kids when it got dubbed by Funimation. He was also pretty well known in the convention scene for being a fucking creep and a fucking weirdo. So, like, he was not very good at not being weirdly touchy-feely with his considerably young fan base. There was plenty of stories, some are more convincing than others, but whether or not you agree with whatever stories and narratives, let's call them, have gone around, there are a handful of things that have definitively happened. He has admitted definitively to touching people inappropriately, but with no ill intention. He has admitted to bringing younger fans back, or inviting them back to his hotels, and inviting them for sexual relations. He has admitted to cheating on his wife at the time, who he's now divorced from. And now he is remarried, so I guess congratulations to that couple. By the way, he is not married to Farah, who he was seeing, which there was a big blowout over because he was seeing Farah and another woman named Haley at the same time. He didn't marry Haley either. It's a whole nother woman. It's a whole other person that I guess he's been canoodling with. So, yeah, that's his personal life. I'm not gonna. The only reason it's kind of important is that he's a cheating, lying douchebag. Like a good Christian man. He graduated from Liberty College, or Liberty University in America. And for anybody who doesn't know about Liberty University, it is ripe with sexual scandals and racism issues. So it's not exactly, He's also appeared on Alex Stein, being incredibly transphobic, and misogynistic, and very, there's some very much racism issues in there. Yeah, he attempted to try and get two fans of his to go back to his hotel and have sex with each other, and they were twins. That was in his deposition. I do have all of the litigation if we want to go through it, but we'll bring it up as we kind of go through that. But that's kind of a rough idea. So what does Vic Mignogna do now? Well, he lost his contract with Funimation. He lost all of his lawsuits. He lost his appeals. So right now he streams a little bit. I believe he streams on Wednesdays if you're curious to go and check it out. He also he makes appearances here and there on other people's channels, and he'll, as long as they're agreeable to him. He doesn't tend to go anywhere where he's gonna be legitimately questioned. He was good friends with Nick Rakita, and we'll talk about who Nick Rakita is in a minute. And he currently does these little TikTok daily devotionals, which, you gotta love a serial cheater who's weird with what consent is, hanging out on TikTok where there's lots of children. Very good, very icky, very yuck. So that's kind of what Vic Mignogna's been up to. He's tried to start his own anime studio, and that has not seemed to go very well for him. Despite what other people claim, that they supposedly have licenses that they've supposedly dubbed, but none of those things have ever come to fruition. And there's been back and forth about money issues, etc., etc. He also owes a buttload of money to the people he tried to sue. That did not go well for him. He also has a really bad habit of doing this thing called plausible deniability, where he tries to incite his fan base to go and attack people on his behalf without literally saying, hey, go and attack this person. So he'll regularly call anybody who is critical of him. He will call them a troll and say that there's a war going on and some kind of fight, and we're not going to give up on this. And he talks about it like some kind of existential threat. Stuff like that. Ugh. So that's who Vic Mignogna is. That's just a brief. If you're curious, I've got other videos that dive in a little bit more about him and his behavior and how he speaks, and we'll look into that just a little bit today. Do I need to explain who Alex Stein is? I feel like letting Alex Stein speak for himself is a little bit better. How does Vic Mignogna fit in with Nick Rakita? So Nick Rakita, for anybody who doesn't know, was recently arrested for drugs and negligence of his children, as well as firearms being left out and what the drugs were, and there's a whole big thing going on about that. He's kind of a lolcow. He's been for a long time. He's a guy who likes to present himself as a big fancy lawyer, but he's just kind of a douchebag. He's just kind of a dick. He comes from money, he inherited wealth kind of thing. He's just he's just a yelly guy on the internet who makes money off of being mad at things, and people laugh at him. That Umbrella guy is mostly now known, I guess, for his Amber Heard Johnny Depp coverage, which, was decent. He did end up getting a lot of insider information, but before that, you'll notice that a lot of these people all came from Gamergate. And so there's definitely, the last time we looked at on that Umbrella guy, because he's friends with Nick Rakita, he was doing Nick Rakita apologetics, where he called the police wrong or bad, or said that the police were in the wrong for removing Nick Rakita's children from the situation that they were in, which included open-ended drugs, open firearms, they were reportedly wearing the same clothes for days on end, stuff like that. It had been reported by somebody in their local area. And so he was jumping through gymnastic hoops to try to say that, the police scared the kids, and it's are you fucking really? So not great on that end. And the last one we're going to look at is Yellow Flash, And Yellow Flash is known for also being, you know, a yelly guy on the internet. Oh my god, there's trans people in my game. What the fuck? Holy shit. Why is a character named Changeling, who doesn't have a gender, not using he pronouns? I don't know. Whoa. Anyway, he was also friends with Nick Rakita. The three of them and a few others were all in kind of a group together. And I guess there's been a little bit of a falling out since the Rakita arrest, but we're not here to talk about that too much. What I want to look back at is lots of people believe these men. They think that they're legitimate, like that what they talk about is legitimate criticism. They think about what they talk about is real life stuff, and that these guys know what they're talking about. They all covered the Vic Mignogna situation. They all bolstered Vic Mignogna. They all got behind Vic Mignogna and say that, oh, he was being falsely accused of Me Too, and he's gonna go to court, and he's gonna prove his case, yada, 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 yada. This is 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago. So I'm gonna, like, roll back the clock, and I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about what in the flying fuck went on with this. Because retroactively looking at the way these people behave, I think is indicative of, like, how problematic they are currently, because it's not like they've stopped. It's not like they've gotten any better. You know what I mean? I mean, we can always jump forward again and just check and see, but I really thought it was very valuable to kind of look at how these kinds of things have exploded over time with, you know, 2020. So, but let's start with what Vic and Alex Stein were talking about in regards to Nick Rakita. This is a clip from Alyssa Clips, and I will put that, the links will of course be in the description as we go, but this is just like a 10-minute clip out of a stream from Prime Time with Alex Stein, where again he had Vic Mignogna on, and this is about this Rakita drama that was going on. So this is from July, so we're not too far in the past. So, oh yeah, he was like a former junior police officer, Vic was. Yeah. I did like a whole dive. Feel free to go find that one. It was a rabbit hole and a half.
I wrote something down in because I wanted to remember to bring it up, and I said it to you before we came on. We live in a free society, right? A free society.
Keep talking.
Okay, I challenge all of you to take me seriously while he's sticking his head in eating ice cream.
Keep on, Beck.
I feel like Alex Stein is like a quintessential, like, he's just like, he's a class clown. Like, that's all he is. But taking Vic Mignogna seriously is always going to be a risk.
Okay, maybe you'll take me more seriously if I eat ice cream.
Yeah,
too.
have a hat. Have a hat. Good. My head hurts, yo.
You guys, everyone runs around, I'm free to do this, and it's my right to do this, and I got freedom, I'm free to do this. Well, a free society can never, ever be sustained if people are not personally moral. If an individual doesn't have any foundational sense of right or wrong or morals, or his neighbor, fellow people around him. You know, I mean, a perfect example is like gun laws. If all of us in this studio are law-abiding citizens and we're conscientious of our fellow man, and we're not hateful, we're not vengeful, you know what I mean? We're not self-absorbed. Why would we be afraid if everyone had a weapon to protect themselves? It's the fact.
If everybody was moral and law-abiding and self-conscious and caring of their other man, why would you need a gun? What would you be protecting yourself from? He's challenging us to take him seriously, as if this is some kind of legitimate modal theory about society. The problem is he's basically saying, well, if people weren't people, then why should it be that you and I would get along so awfully? That nothing he said is viable. There are social contracts, there are legal laws. You can have social contracts that exist outside of or within the legal system. The legal system will always lag behind whatever society believes. That is by design, at least in the current Western civilization. So he's supposed to be being asked about Nick Rakita, and he's going off of this weird fucking diatribe, and he's weirdly avoiding the term personal responsibility, and I'm not sure why yet, so...
That there are people out there that abuse their freedoms and do all kinds of horrific things under the guise of, well, I got my rights, and I'm free to do this, I'm free to do that. Well, you may not be free for very long, because I really believe in my heart that a free...
Then you aren't free to do those things. If you're just incorrect, and you're not going to be free for very long because your rights, you're trying to weaponize your rights to impede on the rights of other people, then you're not inherently following the law in the first place. Is anybody else following what the fuck he is saying? Because this doesn't make any sense. This is platitudes. This isn't like a real... This is, I'm 14 and this is deep. There's nothing like valuable here.
Free country cannot continue if there are so many citizens that abuse that freedom.
We didn't talk about this before, but everything you spoke about right there, freedom, guns, I have to get a soundbite, and I know you're going to give a professional answer. Your very good friend has gotten in a lot of trouble, Nick Rakita. Got arrested with guns. Got arrested, and I'm on Nick's side in a lot of this. I think Nick's a good guy. Everybody's been wanting your statement on the Nick thing, and we don't have to elaborate. We don't have to spend the whole...
I'm gonna immediately jump in here and be like, the part of the charges for Nick Rakita was child neglect. So I understand wanting to wait for like the actual conclusions. But getting defensive about somebody charged with reckless child endangerment and neglect is maybe Curb Your Enthusiasm, and at least wait until, like, the investigation is concluded before you're like, yeah, I'm totally on his side. I think he's a good guy, because I feel like that's the kind of stuff that's gonna end up biting you in the ass later. Yeah, I think Alex is lying, too. I think Alex is saying this to Vic Mignogna to placate him, so that way Vic will not like run away and will actually be open to talk to him. I don't think I agree with Tom. Yeah.
Whole show on it, but I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts, Vic? Because what you just said, freedom, guns. This is what he's going through. And I know he's your friend. I know. And this is my thing. A lot of people on the internet are like, you should throw Nick under the bus. But a real friend stays with you when you're going through tough times.
Well, but a real friend doesn't condone bad behavior either.
Okay.
So the picture that is being shown on screen is a chomping on cigars. Like, this picture makes me laugh so much. It's such like a fucking LARP. We're very with the snake plant in the background. Anyway, it's the three of them pretending that they're cool, chomping on like the most phallic smoking apparatus you can get. But that's Vic in the middle, Nick Rakita, and then on the other side is Ty Beard. Ty Beard being the real estate lawyer that Rakita had got for Vic Mignogna's defamation case. And yes, that is problematic, and yes, you heard me right, and yes, that Ty Beard is also the real estate lawyer that was doing real estate for Nick Rakita. So we have never seen the receipts properly for that, by the way, and we'll talk about that more when we get into Nick Rakita a little bit more, but you know. So let's see if Vic is actually, because I agree with that. Good friends do not condone bad behavior and hold their friends to account or hold their feet to the flames when necessary. So we're going to see what Vic actually says and in what way he is going to hold Nick Rakita responsible.
Stays with you when you're going through tough times.
Well, but a real friend doesn't condone bad behavior either.
Okay.
Right? Here's all I want to say about that.
We have to get a soundbite from you, because everybody wants to know.
Well, yeah. When that picture was taken, I had no knowledge of anything that was going on in his private life at his home.
And this is at Anime Matsuri, where
that
you're
was
going...
actually, honestly, that was like 4 years ago.
And you're going back to Anime Matsuri in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's the
I'm
biggest.
looking very forward to it. Next to Anime Expo, it's the biggest. It's the second largest anime convention in the country, over 60,000.
We're gonna have to have a conversation about Anime Matsuri, but we will have that conversation later. So put a pin in whether or not you believe it's the biggest or second biggest in the country. So keep these numbers on deck, but we'll talk about Anime Matsuri. Like I said, this is a really big rabbit hole. We're not getting into it all today. I'm just introducing you to this rabbit hole that I'm going to lead you down, because like I said, the company, small potatoes. These fucking guys, you're not gonna you're not gonna believe this shit.
That's how you became friends with Nick, right? Because you'd go to this.
No. In fact, Anime Matsuri invited Nick to come to Matsuri precisely because of his support for me.
Yeah, well.
Because he had built a big audience in his support of me and following the events that were going on.
In a way, you could say that he made his audience off your back.
I'm not going to go
He's
there.
a talented guy. I'm just saying you helped give him a little bit.
Here's all I'm going to say about it.
I just want chuds and cigars. Good question. But yeah, I don't like Alex Stein, but goddamn does this man sometimes like hit the nail on the head. Alex Stein knows what he is and knows what he is doing. Right? You cannot. God damn, I'm conflicted because I'm feeling a little bit of respect. Oh, I would love to sit in a room and talk to Alex Stein. Like, just like behind closed doors. I would love to just chat with him, because like I get the feeling of every time I've ever seen Alex Stein is he is always just playing a bit. Anytime he's talking about trans people, or anytime he's talking about gay people, he is cartoonishly a douchebag. Like, he is cartoonishly homophobic, right? As opposed to like real hatred, he makes these like cartoonishly goofy ass fucking like gay people bad thing, and it just seems so fake and like such a grift, and so I'm almost convinced that it's not only is it a grift, but it's also like a LARP. I have a hard time, like, cause like he knows. If I had a cigar, how big would it be compared to me? Who is this guy? Is he the right-winger Walter Masterson wannabe? Oh, are you talking about Alex Stein? No, Alex Stein is like a wannabe right-wing late-night host. So he's closer to wanting to be like Stephen Colbert, but less about actual news, if that makes sense. He's kind of like... He's almost trying to be Steven Crowder, I guess. You'll have to kind of watch and make an assessment, I guess. But Alex Stein is a little bit hard to describe. He's playing a character to communicate how ridiculous this is, a stand-up comedian clowning. Oh, you know what? Almost. Like, he knows the positions. I don't know anything about what Alex Stein actually believes. But I do know that he is aware of whatever he's saying and doing is awful, and he's either making a joke about how awful it is and then not caring that it may or may not be hurting people, or that's part of the point. I do not believe that it's entirely satire. But I do you know what? We're going to have to dive a little bit. Yeah, he's a conservative comedian. Yeah, you have to watch him. You have to watch him to understand. But just be aware that if you do, he says some and does some really cringy and awful shit. The cringe levels are so fucking high. But I don't... it is hard to hate Alex Stein because he's so, like, just not real. He's not real. He's just not a real person. It's a bit. It's so much a bit. So it's hard to kind of get a grasp. Like, about Alex Stein the person as opposed to Alex Stein the character that he's playing. Like, he's sitting there with a suit and a thing and a backwards ball cap in, like, his pseudo studio. Like, what the fuck? He's not, like... He's like a caricature. Like, if fucking Nick Fuentes was joking. Like, you know what I mean? Like... Hi, welcome, guys. Alright, let's let him keep going. So he says he wants to... The reason why Nick Rikita has really a following is because of Vic Mignogna, and he was invited to Anime Matsuri because of his support of Vic Mignogna, which is a weird thing for an anime convention to be doing, don't you think? It's weird for an anime convention to be, like, built on a reputation, like, the bad reputation of one particular voice actor, so much so that they're... To get more notoriety, they're asking a YouTube lawyer to come to their convention? But it's... We'll dive into this. We'll get to see a little bit more of this as we go. Because, like I said, we're gonna roll it back.
I'm not going to go
He's
there.
a talented guy. I'm just saying you helped give him a little bit.
Here's all I'm going to say about it. I had no idea, and I was very, very disheartened and saddened to hear about those events. Mm-hmm. And I'm praying for him. I want the best for him and his wife and his kids. And I have not talked to him or seen him in a very long time.
Well, I've texted with him a little. You haven't texted with him a little bit? He's being very open and texting. Him and I had a nice conversation.
Nope. No.
You guys hadn't had any?
No.
Wow.
So then you're not, Vic. He said that it is important to not condone bad behavior, and he didn't know what was going on and hasn't checked on his very good friend at all in a very long time. That seems awfully convenient. So were you guys actually not good friends and were just grifting off of each other? Because that would be what would make sense to me, but what do I know? Tom actually makes a good point. Nick Rikita made most of his following with Kyle Rittenhouse coverage, but that wouldn't have been possible without the Vic coverage initially. Yeah, it's kind of like a launching point.
It makes me kind of sad, Vic, because I know that you're such a nice guy, and I know it probably hurts you seeing somebody you care about going through this. And we want the best for Nick, whether...
He cares about Nick so much that he hasn't talked to him in a really long time, and it hasn't bothered and cares about his wife and his kids and himself so much that he hasn't even bothered to check in on them privately.
People like Nick or not, Nick's a father. I want him to come out of this stronger, and I think he can. I think
Well, yeah, we can only hope that Nick, like everyone else, learns from mistakes they make as they move forward. They glean some lessons from mistakes, and they incorporate them into making better choices in the future. I mean, I would want that for me. I would want that for you.
Vic would want that for him as he proceeds to never learn a goddamn thing.
Certainly want that for Nick and his wife, and I'm just sorry.
Do you know Kayla very well?
I've only interacted with her when they came to these events.
Do you think that she would find it weird? And we're going to drop it after this.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it.
I know, this is the last question. Show April. Do you think Kayla cares that he has a girlfriend now, though? He's in a throuple.
No, I don't know about any of that.
Wow. This is his new girlfriend.
I don't know about any of that.
The serial cheater, Vic Mignogna, does not know doesn't have any comments about another Christian man with some kind of notoriety in his location that he's very good friends with. No comments about that. What happened to not holding each other accountable? What happened to, friends don't condone good behavior? Just neglecting your friendship or pretending you didn't know him very well conveniently at that time isn't an excuse for you not to deal with the situation. Because that's all this is, right? It's just deflecting of, this is just denial. I don't know. I didn't know. I don't have anything to do. I don't want to talk about it. If you earnestly didn't know, is this really... I hate Alex Stein. He's like Glenn Beck if he was an incel Kiwi farm troll. You know what? Thank you, Joseph. I think that is the best description. I was trying to describe Alex Stein earlier, and I think that is the best description I've heard yet. They don't condone good behavior. Bad behavior. Sorry, yes. You don't think that they were ever friends? It was all just a grift? Well, yeah, it means like fair weather friends, right? Everybody's all friends until the cat comes, right? So the cat has come for Nick Rakita, and Alex Stein's like, oh, well, everybody's telling people to throw Nick under the bus. And it's like, no, there's a difference between holding somebody accountable and addressing an issue honestly and deflecting and trying to pretend you were never even friends in the first place. So then what was all that about? Why were you going on his channel? For money? Because you wanted the money for the lawsuit? Is that like, I mean, if that's the case, then why were you pretending to be friends in the first place? Like, it's a classic domino effect, right? But again, we'll get a little bit deeper into this. We're going to see how good of friends Vic and Nick actually may or may not have been.
My interactions with him were very limited, and like I said,
everybody speaks highly of Nick. That
I wish
hung out
the
with
best. I wish healing.
Mm-hmm.
I pray for healing, and that things will get worked out, and that he and Kayla will come out of this stronger and better than before. And I don't, like I said, I don't know anything about it. I just know, I don't know any more than you guys do.
And we'll forget talking about that, but one person we do need to make fun of.
But that's not what the question was, Vic. The question wasn't really, what do you know about this? It's, what are your thoughts about it? Like, this information is now very public and very available. The people are asking your opinions and your assessment, and your response is, oh, I don't know. I actually didn't know him very well. You were good friends, allegedly. No one speaks highly of Nick. Yeah, I don't know. Even, like, the group that they were part of, when they were all blowing smoke up each other's ass, I don't recall anybody ever being convincingly thinking Nick was a good guy.
If a person I actually like, show me on camera. So that was April. We got to make fun of Steel Toe Joe, Aaron Amolte. He was talking negative about you, and that's not okay with me. That's Steel Toe, that guy.
I have no idea who that is.
Well, I think he said that, whatever. I mean, I guess he didn't speak highly of you. And I don't think
clearly because of all the time he spent with me.
Exactly right. Right?
I mean,
and I like Aaron. I think Aaron's a good guy.
Obviously, he knows what he's talking about.
But Aaron admits that they were doing all kinds of barbiturates and allegedly doing all kinds of stuff. And I guess I just wanted to give you a chance to just set the record straight, because people wanted to hear your side of this.
Well, I think some people want to drag me into things
of course.
That are none of my business.
You got so much money off of Nick Rakita's fan base for your lawsuit. Do you not think that due to the social contract that you were talking about earlier, about people being open and honest with each other and being concerned and reasonable and considerate to other people, that Vic Mignogna, it's reasonable for Nick Rakita's fan base, who supported you so heavily, that you come out and talk to them about what has been going on with Nick Rakita? Like, do you not think that that's reasonable? Oh no, Alex is absolutely trying to stir the pot. This is Alex Stein trying to get sound bites, and Alex Stein trying to get views, right? And like, fine, whatever. But this is a reasonable question to be asking Vic Mignogna. Right? It's reasonable to expect Vic Mignogna to speak on this issue because of how ingrained he was in it.
And what happened with what goes on in Nick's private life and in his world and with his wife and family and all of that, I have nothing to do with that. I had no...
Yes, you do. You already said that you cared about them and that you wanted them to be okay, and that if you care, then you can't say, well, I have nothing to do with it. Again, you got so much money from being inherently tied to Nick Rakita and his fan base. So that means when something happens with Nick Rakita, you're responsible to have an opinion. You're responsible to come out and speak about it, not just pretend you don't know anything. Right? RNGD said, what I give a damn about is Nick's kids being tested for cocaine, and it surpassed the max level they test for. yeah, that's a big yikes. There's been some really big yikes situations. So to just give these platitudes with complete disregard for the facts of the matter and the complete disregard for the safety of the children, to just be like, well, I hope that Nick comes out of this better. These kinds of confrontations, these kinds of situations are incredibly, like, complicated, right? Not just that, oh, the law's involved and it's going to be sticky, or like, there's more to it. There's more people involved. There are children involved that are growing up in these scenarios that are going to have to go back and see these things and look at people who might have been their heroes at one point, just leave them to suffer and completely disregard them, right? If Vic was good friends with Nickrakita, like they claimed, and something goes down, and Vic knows their family, and if these kids ever looked to Vic as a good person in their life for, like, you know, bringing money into the family or being friendly, yada yada yada, the kids are going to look at Vic Mignogna as a person who abandoned them, right? Because that's what's happening right now. Vic is not going to involve himself and only speak good of Nickrakita, who has put these kids in this scenario knowing full well what was going on. Right? So it's not that simple. And just like the disregard for this scenario is kind of gross. It should be obvious. Because that's the other thing too, right? If Vic is a good person, if Vic is a good Christian man, then he should not have a hard time condemning the bad behavior of his friend, which he said right at the beginning of the clip. He was like, you don't condone bad behavior, but here he is dismissing, like, just, I don't know, I'm neglecting this bad behavior of his friend. Do you not think it would be really easy to say, listen, what he did is not okay, it's not acceptable, assuming what everything I've read is true, and I hope he gets help. But he's not even willing to say that. They found what on the kids? Oh, cocaine. Congratulations on finishing your homework. I've done a little bit of a deeper dive on this in other videos if you want to see the actual paperwork for Nickrakita. There are 2 videos on it. You can go and check those ones out.
No knowledge of any of it, and I had nothing to do with it. So when
I have no knowledge, I don't know anything about it, it's none of my business. So now those kids are none of your business? The kids of your friend? None of your business? Again, being considerate to other people, having freedoms. This is neglectful at best. You're purposefully not finding out what's going on. You're purposefully making sure you don't know what's going on. Why? What are you afraid of? Does Nickrakita have dirt on you? Is that what you're afraid of? Is this some mafia shit? Because again, as a good person, you really shouldn't. This shouldn't be difficult based on what Vic said before, right?
somebody wants my opinion, I'm like, I have no opinion.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about anything. I like you, like anybody else, I want the best for him. And
you have no opinion about your good friend being arrested for drug abuse, child neglect, and his gun issues? You have no opinion on that because you're purposefully choosing to be ignorant of it as if that's an excuse? You understand that choosing to be ignorant is still a choice, right? You're choosing to ignore these things so you don't have to take responsibility for your relationship, your direct relationship with Nickrakita that you profited off of? Vic was part of the swinging? Ooh, I wouldn't put it that would interesting theory, RNGD. Interesting theory. And the problem is friendship is a loose term. Like whether or not you're friends with somebody, right? You may or may not be, and that friendship can reach different amounts. Friends is loose, right? So if you say you're somebody's good friend and then it gets inconvenient to be that person's friend anymore, well, you can be like, well, we were never really that close. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter how close Vic Mignogna was to Nick Rakita personally. What matters is that Vic Mignogna was close enough to Nick Rakita to allow him to use his name to do a GoFundMe to pay for his lawsuits that raised thousands of dollars. And then when Vic finds out that Nick Rakita is potentially abusing his children, he's like, oh, well, I didn't know him that well. I don't know very much. I don't have an opinion. I'm purposefully being ignorant of it. It doesn't matter how good of friends he was. That just makes it more or less sticky, right? You have somebody that you know in your life and you find out that they've been neglecting their children. If you look dead in the eye and say, well, it's none of my business, I don't know, you don't care about kids. Because the kids are innocent in all of this. It's not their fault. They didn't do any of this shit. So to say that, like, well, it's just none of my business, fuck you. How dare you pretend that you're a good person who deserves to be involved in the anime industry, of which a large portion of is directed at adolescents? How fucking dare you pretend that you're like this good Christian man who's preaching daily devotionals? You don't fucking care. You don't care about freedoms. You don't care about whether or not people are abusing their freedoms. You are literally saying that these kids are suffering and I don't care enough. Don't tell me about it. I'm gonna close my ears and cover my eyes and talk about how much it's none of my business that these kids, somebody that I was well aware of and know who they are. It's not like you're completely ignorant of who Nick Rakita even is. This was somebody that you interacted with on a daily basis. Even if it was somebody that you didn't know at all. If it was some stranger to you, and it was just like, hey, did you hear about Jesse over there? Jesse was caught with cocaine, and it turns out he was neglecting his kids, and they found cocaine in his system. Is your response, it's none of my business? Or is your response, oh my god, I hope those kids are okay, what the fuck, what's going on? If you actually don't know about something that is that egregious, your first line of questioning is general, and you're somebody who cares, then the first thing you're going to be asking is, oh my god, what happened? Are those kids okay? What's going on? What the fuck? Vic knows, he just doesn't want to know, so he's purposefully keeping himself ignorant and claiming that he is ignorant. To be like, oh, well, I don't know what's going on, but he doesn't care to find out. Because that's too inconvenient. So how much did Vic Mignogna actually know about what was going on? Does it matter? Maybe to some people, but for the most part, the end result is still him being willing to throw these kids under the bus for his own convenience, which makes him not a good fucking person.
I hope that God brings he and his wife through this.
Last question. We're not going to talk about any more after this. Netflix is inevitably going to make a documentary about Nick Rakita, for sure. I have a feeling that it's a very salacious story. I know that looks to me crazy, but he's one of the biggest streamers ever. He gets in trouble, so now his court case is going to get streamed by people. I mean, I'm not saying Netflix can do it, but somebody's going to do a big documentary. You're going to be a part of that. If a major production company came up to you and said, Vic, we want to get your statement, not here on the show.
Can I point out, by the way, this is Vic Mignogna throwing Nick under the bus? He's not fully, he's defending him a little bit, but he's mostly being like, he has nothing to do with me. That is throwing somebody under the bus. If he was defending him, or if he was actually saying like, hey, listen, whatever's going on, I don't know the details of because the information isn't out yet. From what I've seen, this is really bad and I really hope he gets to be okay. That would be supporting your friend and not condoning good behavior. Not condoning bad behavior. But what he's doing is pretending like he never even knew him in the first place. That's throwing somebody under the bus.
If a major production company came up to you and said, Vic, we want to get your statement, not here on the show, would you participate in something like that?
My statement would be what I just stated.
That's all you would
A
say?
very short statement.
I know. And Vic has only spoken highly. I just want to say Vic has only ever spoken highly of Nick. Vic's been very professional.
He spoke highly of Vic, except for that he doesn't actually know anything about him. If he doesn't know anything about him, why the fuck was he speaking highly of him in the first place? You're implying that he knows Nick Rakita better than what he's pretending on your show.
I've never heard you say one negative thing about him.
My interactions with him have always been good, but to be honest, they ended quite a while back. And occasionally there might be a quick text, but
Excuse me? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Your interaction with him ended except for your interactions with him? So when you said earlier that you haven't talked to him in a long time, you were lying? Can you keep your story straight? No. Of course you can't. So did you know him or did you not know him? Did you know what was going on or did you not know what's going on? If you were good friends with him for a short period of time, did you not reach out to him as things got worse and worse and worse and worse? That timeline seems like it might be relevant. I'm gonna roll that back. Can you say that one for me again real quick?
Highly of Nick. Vic's been very professional. You've never heard you say one negative thing about him.
my interactions with him have always been good, but to be honest, they ended quite a while back. And occasionally there might be a quick text, but recently, not at all.
Well, Nick, me and Vic are rooting.
That's awfully specifically vague language. What is occasionally? What is recently? Is recently like within the last year? Is recently within the last couple of months since before he got arrested? Is recently 20 minutes ago? Recently is incredibly relative. So that it's all vague bullshit language with accidental slips that yes, he's been in contact with Nick Rakita. Yes, he still has some kind of working relationship with him in some capacity. But why does it matter? He doesn't care. He just threw Nick under the fucking bus. He just said, well, you know, I didn't really know him. And turned around and said that he didn't give two shits about these kids. Or any kids for that matter. It's a minor nuance that is not really that, doesn't really matter that much, right?
Rooting for you. We want you to get the help that you need or whatever you need. And sure, Vic's
You know what?
call in.
I'm going to say a prayer.
Let's
say a
pray.
prayer.
Let's say a
I'm gonna
prayer.
say a prayer. I'm gonna. You know what?
Show the Vic
I'm
camera.
gonna say a prayer for Nick and his wife and Joe Biden.
Okay, and Joe Biden.
Not the kids though. Fuck them. Already forgot about them.
Yes, that's good.
Right? Don't mock.
I'm not. I'm praying. How am I mocking?
You don't.
How am I mocking? I'm praying.
Am I doing that? Look. Am I doing
but
that?
I pray different. I'm Pentecostal. I'm
Is anybody
Pentecostal.
Anybody buying any of
No,
this?
we have a snake at my church.
That's a really good question, Vic. Hey, audience, is anybody buying any of this? This horseshit performative prayer to make it seem like you're a good person after you told those kids to go fuck themselves and that they were none of your business, of your friend, and also like your friend? Like, what the fuck? What in the fuck are you doing? This is just at that point weaponizing. This is what's the term when you take God's name in vain? That's what this is. This is like one of the biggest breaches of the 10 Commandments that I have seen in a long while. How much you want to bet this prayer is going to be extra gross?
Church that if you get bit by the snake,
I've heard about that. Okay,
you go to heaven.
Okay, well I'm serious. I'm gonna take this
I'm
seriously.
serious too.
All right, Heavenly Father, I just want to bring our president before you. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on policies and positions on things, but we certainly don't wish ill
So this is just sinning, right? This is just sinning on camera.
or harm. So I pray that
Blasphemy,
if he is
yeah, thank you.
ill, especially if he's seriously ill, I pray that you would heal him. Pray that you would protect him and bring him back to full health. And then I also pray for Nick and Kayla and their family. whatever is going on with them, you know better than we do. There's no reason for us to put a bunch of words to it because you know everything that's going on.
There's no reason for us to address it and hold our friends accountable or anything, because God will take care of it, right? Yeah. You know, that's also like against what the Bible says too, right? The Bible says you need to take action when you need to take action and not leave everything. Like, don't test God. You can't leave God. You still gotta exist. You still gotta live your life and do good things, you fucking asshole. You can't just be like, well, I'm a good person because I told God to do it for me. Okay. Yeah.
Going on. So I just want to pray that you will guide Nick and Kayla, bring them through this difficult time. I'm sure it must be incredibly stressful. And I just pray that you would you'd be close to them and bring them through it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Alex Stein now speaking in tongues.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
I'm speaking in tongues. This is part of my Pentecostal church. We speak in tongues. Why is my culture wrong? Why can't we speak in tongues sometimes?
Did you hear me say wrong?
Okay,
Did
good.
I ever say any culture was wrong? I never said that.
See, that's that plausible deniability.
When you make that face, though.
Vic can't even, like, be transparent enough to say that Alex Stein is being a douchebag. Do you think he's secretly calling Vic out? Yeah, he is clearly just mocking Vic Mignogna right now, and has been for, like, the majority of this clip.
I
have a question for you.
Yes, amen.
Do you take anything seriously?
I do.
Now look at me.
Yeah, I do take stuff.
Look over there. Look at me.
I do take stuff seriously.
Do you? I don't
believe in God.
I'm serious. You put me on the spot trying to ask me something.
I didn't put you on the spot. We had to ask you a question. No, I didn't.
You didn't have to. You did.
So, that was Vic Mignogna's thoughts about Nick Rekieta and the Rekieta situation. So, you know. Yay. Yippee! Wasn't that fun and disgusting? And this is what I mean by, like, the bros before hoes type scenario where he's throwing Nick under the bus but also doesn't want to take any steps to do anything to be preventative, right? Yay! So, I wanted to show you guys, we've got a couple of videos here. This one's from 4 years ago, and it says, it's a new year and it's time to do a pulse check on the Vic Mignogna case. Where did this thing start? Where are we? And where is this thing going in 2020? Right? Then we have, like, he did a 4.5 hour interview with Vic Mignogna, and this was 3 years ago, right? Then we have the Yellow Flash, and I just searched the Yellow Flash's channel for stuff on Vic Mignogna, and here we go. The real Vic Mignogna I09 interview. Here's what he really said. Funimation gets backlash over Vic Mignogna 5 years ago. A playlist with 31 videos from 5 years ago, right? Vic Mignogna responds to Anime News trash network lies 5 years ago. DM leaks of Kick Vic lies about Vic Mignogna, photoshopped pictures, right? There was another one called Deep Humor that I haven't totally finished looking at yet, but we'll come back to that. Then I've also went and did the same thing with that Umbrella guy, and I searched Vic. Dragon Ball Super actor accused after ruining Vic Mignogna's career 2 years ago. Vic Mignogna wrecks his haters live after ban from LACon 2 years ago. Here's the playlist of hashtag I stand with Vic. Vic, sorry. 5 years ago, Yellow Flash attacked because Vic Mignogna. You see what I'm saying? So how much Vic Mignogna banned from convention in 2021 because this guy 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, right? Attack Vic's mom. Mars Girl attacks Vic Mignogna's mom 5 years ago. And this is like a whole nother thing that you're going to see here, because this is just looking for videos about Vic Mignogna, right? Sean Schimmel, voice of Goku, blames fans for swatting because Vic Mignogna 5 years ago. Evidence against Vic Mignogna gone. What's left for Ron and Monica 5 years ago. Another voice actor under attack, Winnie the Pooh gets kick Vic/Vic Mignogna treatment. Better watch out, Mars Girl attacks Vic Mignogna again, only to be reminded Kick Vic eats its own. You notice how all of these videos are at least 2 years old? None of them are coming up as recent at all. Not like, by recent I don't mean like yesterday. I mean none of them have done an update to show how Vic fucking screwed the pooch on his own fucking case. Right? So how earnest, out of curiosity, do you guys think this content is actually going to be? Right? You really think that this is gonna... Yeah, 2022, 2 years ago. Yeah. And what happened in 2022? All the appeals. And then never really spoke about it again. As earnest as Vic in that interview, right? How interesting. How interesting. It was quite the grift you got going on there. 4 years ago, since they added to this playlist, right? So Vic they got everybody, all of their fan bases. Yellow Flash, we're looking at 457,000 subscribers. Nick Rakita, we're looking at 433,000 subscribers. That Umbrella Guy, you're looking at 392,000 subscribers, which they have now, right? So what happened? What happened is they all made their content. They all got the Vic Mignogna fans all hyped up, got their own fans all hyped up, got Vic Mignogna and Nick Rakita a bunch of money for these lawsuits, and then never actually updated their fan bases about what happened in those lawsuits. Never talked about the fucking appeals. Never actually did a proper, like, demonstration of what was going on. And I will bet you, as we dive into these, which, like I said, we're not going to do today. We're just going to do this one today. We're going to see how they were behaving 4 to 5 years ago. We're going to compare it to how they're handling this Nick Rakita arrest situation. And then we're going to see if any of these people were responsible in the way they were handling this situation whatsoever. So let's take a look.
It's 2020, a new year, and it's time for an update on Vic Mignogna's lawsuit, where it is, how it got here, and where it's going. So stick with me. Let's talk about it.
I just mean that shit. I don't fucking care about his stupid intro.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Nick Rakita of Rakita Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, and today we're talking about the Vic Mignogna lawsuit as we enter 2020, where it is, how it got here, where it's going, all of that stuff. If you like these short, informative videos, please click like, please click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you really want to expand on what goes on in the short videos, come check out the live streams typically every weeknight, including tonight, January 3rd at 11 p.m. Central. Of course, if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you should be notified when those live streams occur as well. Sometimes they do happen on weekends and stuff like that.
Ditto, Nick. Thanks, guys. Like and subscribe and share and all that shit. Like I said, this is going to be quite the dive into looking at what these people were saying at the time. We're going to be here for a little while. Yeah, have a good day, Katina. We'll see you later. These videos will be up, so don't freak out about it. You can always catch the replay later. I'm not here to grift unlike some other people. So we'll see how this goes.
So, do that. Have fun. It'll be great for you, great for me. And then let's move into this discussion, okay? So back at the beginning of 2019, actually January 16th of 2019, the Broly movie came out in the United States, and that sparked a Twitter sort of conflagration. Yeah, conflagration. And of course, it started with a spark. A relatively small Twitter account from a person named Han Leia tweeted something about Vic Mignogna. It was picked up by Mars Girl, formerly of...
What did they tweet? This is already a bad timeline. Broly movie came out. Tweet happened. Picked up by Mars Girl? What did the tweet say? Vic Mignogna had a bad reputation before the Broly movie. People have been talking about this for years. I mean, maybe the Broly movie brought some more eyes on it? Is that what he's trying to suggest? Perhaps.
Channel Awesome, now of Channel Orangutan. And it was then that story...
Calling Mars Girl an orangutan. That's good. Good start. Good start.
Kind of tumbled and ballooned into Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial and Ron Toye making some tweets about Vic as well, and culminating in Funimation and Rooster Teeth. Funimation and Rooster Teeth. I always forget.
Yeah, we'll point out, Sarah's asking in the chat that Nick looks more healthy. Do you think this is before he got hooked on crack? This is before Nick Rakita had as large of a following as he does currently, and before he had as much money as he did. So, this was before a lot. It got more eyes when the Broly movie was released. I would think that makes sense, but it wasn't new. We'll put it that way.
Forget about Rooster Teeth, like a lot of their subscribers do. Firing Vic Mignogna around January 28th or 29th of 2019, and then Funimation making a public statement on February 11th via Twitter. These I guess communications via primarily Twitter sparked a lawsuit because...
This is such a bad rundown. Okay, let me redo the rundown. Vic Mignogna had a really bad reputation for being touchy and feely with people and being sexually inappropriate towards women. That culminated when the Broly movie came out and he was the voice of Broly. Some people started talking about it a little bit more and it got more eyes because of the popularity of that movie, so more people became aware of it. Mars Girl retweeted and talked about it because it was something she had been talking about for years, and that gathered a lot more attention, and the hashtag KickVic kind of took off. There was an internal investigation by Funimation when Sony bought Funimation. When Sony bought Funimation, they had reason to investigate what was going on, and Vic Mignogna's contract with Funimation was terminated. Vic then got hyped up by people on the internet like Nick Rakita with his fucking GoFundMe to give him a bunch of money to try to sue these people for defamation. The people being sued were, and Monica, Ron, Funimation itself, and sorry, who was the last one? Jamie. So for anybody who doesn't know who those are, voice actors, one of which was, if I'm not mistaken, afterward put in charge of Funimation, but that neither here nor there. These are other people who had worked with him, and I believe Ron is married to one of them as well.
Vic Mignogna states that the defendants, Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, Ron Toye, and Funimation, basically just lied in what they were saying about him online for the purpose of causing him damage and that he received the damage that was intended. He was fired. He was canceled from conventions. His reputation has taken a massive hit.
His reputation was already bad, but Vic Mignogna was uninvited to a lot of conventions.
From all of these allegations, and they're very serious allegations of sexual assault and other sorts of sexual harassment type activities that he insists are not true. He has maintained that all of these things are false since they were uttered. Now, he clearly received damage in losing the 2 jobs and then losing the convention appearances. How much damage is hard to really pin down because you never know exactly how much you're going to get at a convention. But either way, damage was received. He also alleged something.
What? What do you mean you don't know how much you're going to get at a convention? Vic Mignogna was at the convention and paid for to be there by the convention, not... Or is Nick Rakita suggesting that Vic Mignogna was selling things at the convention? I'm a little bit confused about what Nick Rakita is trying to say here, but maybe somebody can elaborate a little bit. I'm not much of a convention goer, but maybe I'm the one confused on that one.
Something called tortious interference. Now, this stems from the idea that the defendants actively engaged in interference with Vic's contracts with other people. So if Vic had let's say a contract with a convention, for example, I don't know what conventions we would be talking about, probably all the ones that canceled him, but let's say he had a contract with a convention set up, and then let's say some weirdo, hypothetically Ron Toye, sent a bunch of text messages to that convention to improperly interfere with that contract.
What an interesting hypothetical you've decided to put forward. How potentially negligent or problematic that would be. That is a hypothetical that you're using to make an accusation about something you have no evidence of. Uh-oh. You want to talk about fucking interfering? I don't know about that.
Right? And then maybe there were phone calls between Monica Rial and Ronald Toye to the owner of said convention, Kamehacon, that where they wanted Vic removed from the convention. They threatened to do all sorts of things like breach their own contracts if Vic was allowed to stay, and that conversation and the text messages and all of that resulted in a convention breaching their contract with Vic Mignogna.
What a convoluted example you just decided to try to throw out there as a hypothetical. So I've talked about tortious interference before, and I just recommend going and checking out that video. I can link it down below if you are interested. But if you want to talk about a conversation with a convention runner where some of the guests or the invitees decide that they don't want to go for whatever reason, they are allowed to pull that. They are allowed to be like, you know what, I know I agree to be there. I'm not going to agree to be there. It might be a breach of our contract. We're going to take the hit on that, but I'm not comfortable with this other person being there, so we're going to choose not to go. And that convention then on their own decides to or to not have Vic Mignogna there because he's a fucking liability. That is not inherently a breach of contract, nor is it inherently tortious interference, because those people have just as much freedoms as Vic has to be like, you know what, if Ron is going to be at this convention, I don't want to be there, so I'm going to reject or I'm going to take the hit on my contract because I don't want to be there to deal with him. Vic is welcome to do the same thing. The thing is beggars can't be choosers, right? I hope Sir Sick is doing well. Next time you're there, tell him I say hi. He doesn't know who I am.
Would be tortious interference with the contract. So he sued for tortious interference as well. And he also sued for something called civil conspiracy. And that's basically an allegation that the defendants, at least 2 of the defendants, and he alleged it against all of them, but at least two of the defendants worked together to engage in this tortious activity, like tortious interference or defamation, that they conspired, they worked together. This isn't like a grand conspiracy thing. It's basically two people saying, hey, do you want to do that thing that's unlawful? They don't.
Mr. Sirius makes a good point and says, I think there's some TOS that allows someone to pull out of a contract if things get crazy. Yes, most contracts will have clauses in them that allow a convention or an individual to pull their attendance. So it would not necessarily be a breach of contract in the first place. So there's a large hurdle that Vic Mignogna would have had to leap over to actually demonstrate that there was interference and a breach of contract. So you have to get that breach of contract is going to be the first thing, and I don't think Vic was even ever able to show that, let alone that there was any kind of interference with said contract. So I think it's important to point that out, only because the way Nick, who is supposed to be a lawyer, who is supposed to be speaking with authority on this at the time of this video, because again, keep in mind, please, that this video took place on January 3rd, 2020, that he is presenting this very, not very neutrally, not very, it is very much lilted, right? It's not exactly the most accurate information he could be giving. His hypothetical is confusing. He speaks as if this is a thing that has happened. He says that two people did this, but the legality is alleging 4 people. So
they don't say unlawful. Yeah, I want to do that thing. I'll tell my lie about someone, and I'll tell my lie, and then with both of our lies combined, we have Captain Defamation, and he goes out and ruins someone's career, livelihood, and reputation. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So that's kind of the
one thing that I think is also important to point out is that we do not have Funimation and Sony's internal investigation paperwork. That was never public. We don't know exactly why or what was investigated that led Funimation to their canceling of Vic Mignogna's contract. It was something that was just assumed. It was assumed by Vic Mignogna. It was assumed by Nick Rekieta. It was assumed by the majority of people, right? That people were like, oh, Vic Mignogna's reputation is finally catching up to him, and so he lost his contract. We don't actually know why, but it would not necessarily be a breach of contract to terminate it. There's always going to be clauses, so that does not inherently make it tortious interference either. And yes, there's a big difference between unlawful or uncivil, and there's also a big difference between criminal allegations and unlawful behavior and two people corroborating their stories. So if one person is like, hey, I went through this, and another person goes, oh, hey, yeah, I went through this, there's a lot of presumption in the way Nick is presenting this information, right? There's a whole lot of, it relies on people lying and conspiring, right? But he's so blasé about that this conspiracy actually took place that, well, it can't possibly be that Vic's just kind of an asshole, even though literally everything we've ever watched on this channel is demonstrated Vic is just kind of an asshole. We literally just watched him on Alex Stein being an asshole. So it's not like it's that far-fetched to think that this serial cheating, ego-boosted, bloviating douchebag is just the douchebag, you know what I mean?
A defamation, and he goes out and ruins someone. I lie about someone, and and I'll tell my lie, and then with both of our lies combined, we have Captain Defamation, and he goes out and ruins someone's career, livelihood, and reputation. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So that's kind of the allegations that were in the lawsuit. This was filed in April of 2019. And there's a GoFundMe for Vic. You can check it out, gofundme.com/Vic-kicks-back. It was started by me. You can read all about it, and you can read all of the people who hate that I did it. They're all over the place too. So
question, did you, Nick Rekieta, get Vic's permission to use his face and likeness for this GoFundMe before you made it? Or did you make it, shout it out to your audience, get a bunch of money, and then show it to Vic and be like, hey, look at this. Look at how great this is. Look at all this money. You should go through with this. I'm curious to know, because I think that's a little bit of interference in some capacity, do you not? Again, we've never seen the receipts for this. There has never been the receipts posted. And do you not think that it would be like ethically questionable? Maybe not against the law, but do you not think it would be ethically questionable as somebody who is touting that they have a law degree, that they are somebody of authority who knows what they're talking about in the law, to use somebody's name and likeness for a lawsuit that they haven't filed yet, or a lawsuit that they have filed but you have nothing to do with and have no actual information on? I'm pretty sure Vic has said that he found out about the GoFundMe afterward, right? But I mean, do we trust Vic Mignogna with how purposefully ignorant he seems to like to keep himself about things? Are we sure? Do we know? Kind of starts when the basis of your GoFundMe and this large amount of money and this large amount of following built off of this is already so shaky and already based on so many uncertain, just like blatant fucking statements. Are we sure? Do we know? Will we ever know? Probably not. I mean, this is one of those things that I don't think people will ever really get an answer on, but it does become a thing that, like, if you are following a creator, or if you're getting hyped up into a scenario, these are basic questions that you need to ask yourself. Again, these people have built, like, large channels off of this. They've made real money off of this. And so, like, lots of people got caught up and have been giving money to these kinds of things, right? You gotta be careful out there. You need to ask yourselves these basic questions, and you need to ask them every time, and it is exhausting. But also, you need to be careful about getting caught up in the wave. You know what I mean? And if somebody does ask the question, are they the asshole?
But there's a GoFundMe to pay for legal fees. He hired an attorney by the name of Ty Beard down in Texas, and they brought...
Did he hire that lawyer, or is that the lawyer you said? Because Ty Beard's name is in the GoFundMe. So did Vic hire that lawyer, or was Vic the lawyer that was designated to him because it was your GoFundMe? And Vic may or may not have ever even seen any of that money to even make a decision in the first place. Second question, why would Vic Mignogna hire a real estate lawyer for his defamation case if he was given a choice? Is that a choice that any of you would make?
For legal fees, he hired an attorney by the name of Ty Beard down in Texas, and they brought this case to court. Now, the case was dismissed in October and November of 2019 over some in-court rulings and a follow-up order.
Wow, it was dismissed that year and it could have just stopped. But no, there is still money to be grifted.
It was dismissed under something called the Texas Citizens Participation Act, or TCPA. This is an anti-SLAPP law, and the purpose of the law is to reduce costly, frivolous litigation that's based on protected speech. Now, here's the thing. Let me just put this out there. Defamation is not protected speech under the First Amendment. So if you can convince a court that what was said was defamatory, it's not protected First Amendment speech and should not be dismissed under something like the TCPA. Now,
are you then going to explain that Vic and your lawyer, Ty Beard, were not able to demonstrate that to the court, which is why it was dismissed in the first filing? Or no? No? Is that like as a lawyer being responsible on YouTube presenting the facts and evidence to their audience? Are you going to say that, or are you going to brush this under the rug?
Now, this is a pre-trial motion that is done, and there's some pros and cons to bills like the TCPA, but really, in this case, the TCPA is used.
What are the cons for an anti-slap law, Nick? I'm curious to know, because that might be interesting content. I'm not a lawyer, so I would absolutely value the input of somebody who knows what they're talking about and who is a professional in their field to talk about anti-slap laws in a bubble and say, okay, well, here's pros and here's cons. The cons, the way you're presenting it, sounds like people are allowed to get away with defamation, but
but really, in this case, the TCPA is used to assert that people who went out and lied and have not denied what they said. They do not deny their statements, but they
didn't deny their statements, but they're not. How do you have you not demonstrated that they're a lie versus an opinion?
Went out and lied about someone to get them fired and cause them reputational and financial harm.
That sounds like defamation, Nick. Did these people definitively lie? And are these the reasons why they definitively lied? That's what defamation sounds like. Can you prove... Does Nick Rekieta have a video somewhere that actually demonstrates that the things that these people said were lies? Because that's probably where you should start. I mean, it's not necessarily on YouTube, but if you're going to say these people have definitively lied and here's why they've definitively lied, you think it would be really easy to find a video on that person making that claim's channel demonstrating that thing, wouldn't it? Or keep in mind that these are like civil suits, right? That we're talking about tortious interference. We're talking about crime here. Civil crime, but crime nonetheless. Nick Rekieta is accusing people of conspiring to lie to destroy someone's life. So clearly, a responsible lawyer educating people about the legal process would have, a video talking about it, demonstrating how, like, you would show this in court, how you would present this evidence in court and what it would look like, or would have a video out even demonstrating that what they're stating is even true in the first place. You make the claim, you gotta demonstrate it. No?
Who went out and lied and have not denied what they said. They do not deny their statements, but they went out and lied about someone to get them fired and cause them reputational and financial harm, did cause reputational and financial harm, that them suing based on lying about them is frivolous. That's what has been decided in the current.
So, jump forward, we're now in 2024. Vic Mignogna has lost these cases. He's lost his appeals, yada, 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 right? Do you not think, perhaps, dear viewer, do you not think that perhaps based on these statements and based off of the wave of hate content that has been made by multiple channels based off of these slanderous statements, that it is possible for Monica or Mars Girl or Ron or Jamie to file defamation, or even Funimation to file defamation suits in return? I'm not saying whether or not they should or they would, but by Nick Rekieta's logic that he's presenting here, is it not reasonable? Because Nick Rekieta has not demonstrated that any of these things are lies, nor has he demonstrated that that was the intention of the statements in the first place. So if he can't show it, he doesn't know it. So by his logic, this is defamation, right? I mean, he's the lawyer. I have to take his word for it, don't I? He's the professional here. Again, this video is 4 years old, 5 years old, and this shit has been going on. I've had people in my comment sections, when I've talked about things that Vic Mignogna has said recently, trying to come over here and give me a fucking hard time, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? Who believes this shit? What about anything that Nick Rekieta is saying right now is actually believable? This has fucking 3.8 thousand likes. This video has 56,000 views. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Current court. That's what the dismissal means. It says, well, they didn't deny saying what you said or what you say they said. They didn't deny when they said it. None of that stuff has happened. We're just saying that this is protected speech, that they can lie about you, cause this reputational damage.
The court said that people are allowed to lie about other people and cause damage. That's what the court said. I somehow doubt that that's what the court said. What the court said is that's their opinion, I bet, and that is protected. So I would love to see a lawyer demonstrate that.
This is protected speech, that they can lie about you, cause this reputational damage, and lead you into harm. So that is dismissed. Now, if that sounds weird to you or unjust or whatever, that's because
That's because I'm making it up.
characterization of it is absolutely unjust and weird. And that is why
That characterization of it, the way you characterize it, because you made it up? You mean it's a narrative? You mean you made up an entire narrative about the court, about these people, about how bad they were to this one poor fucking loser who needed to be defended and who lost his contract based on reasons we also just made up so you could make money? What? And again, I would have less of an issue with this if people weren't jumping through hoops to defend this fucking guy. It's all a conspiracy.
sounds weird to you or unjust or whatever, that's because that characterization of it is absolutely unjust and weird. And that is why Vic Mignogna has appealed the initial decision of the court. The dismissal has been appealed by Vic and his team, and that is what we will be looking at over the next couple months with Vic's case. We should get
His team? You mean you and Ty Beard?
more and more of the action happening in the appeals court as they take it up and as each side prepares their briefing, and then eventually it should culminate in a nice hearing and then a decision on whether or not the lower court's decision was proper or not.
So just to be clear, in 2020 and in 2019, the judges had already dismissed Vic's bullshit as bullshit. This went on for years. To this day, this shit is going on. You can see it in my comment section. To this day, this shit is going on. You can see it on Mars Girl's Twitter feed. To this day, this shit is going on. Like, what do you mean? What the fuck is happening?
If you take the way I framed it, the lower court's decision was improper.
If you take the way I framed it, meaning he read that off like he was quoting the court, then called it a characterization, and then took ownership of that characterization. So he misrepresented the court to his followers speaking as a professional and as a lawyer to his fan base in 2020. He literally just told you out loud that he was bullshitting you. Are you fucking for real? I'll play that again.
Decision on whether or not the lower court's decision was proper or not. If you take the way I framed it, the lower court's decision was improper. If you take it a different way and say, well, what they didn't actually lie, they said true things, and you're allowed to say true things, then that would be something that should be dismissed, I suppose. But the question is, without going into an actual courtroom to argue about whether or not it was a lie, are we able to determine whether or not it was a lie?
You need to make a good case initially to get to that point, and you failed. You failed right out the fucking gate. How the fuck is this still a conversation that people are having? How did anybody fucking believe this motherfucker at any point in time? He clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. He clearly is totally fine to just fucking lie to people. He doesn't give a shit about his audience. He doesn't care about Vic. He doesn't care about any of the people or the law involved, because if he did, he wouldn't say, oh, I suppose. That's the law operating as intended, motherfucker. Is this for real?
The logical answer is legally no, but that's how these statutes sort of work out. They're a mess because they can be abused. They have good intentions but can be abused.
You could say that about anything. A hammer has a good intention to build things, but it can be abused. But you need to demonstrate how these individuals or lawyers working on behalf of these individuals have abused the system. Again, we're back to defamation. You are now stating as a fact that these people lied about Vic Mignogna with the intention of causing him harm and reputational damages and money, and that when brought to court, they abused the court system. How? In what way? Tell Elmo.
Either way, that's where we are now. The dismissal occurred over October and early November, and then Vic filed his appeal. After the dismissal occurred, the appeals court will be hearing that appeal coming up soon. Now, Monica Rial and Ron Toye have filed cross appeals on the amount of fees that were awarded after Vic filed his appeal. So Vic filed the appeal. Judge Chupp issued a ruling on fees awarding approximately $50,000 to each defendant.
And then Vic went back to court again because of you and your fan base blowing smoke up his ass for more money.
Because that's in the TCPA is a reasonable amount of attorney's fees being awarded to each defendant. So a total of about $200,000 in fees was awarded. Now about $500,000 to $550,000 in fees were requested. So getting $200,000 was a significant reduction in the amount of fees that were actually sought for and allegedly incurred by the defense. So since they did not,
and that aged like milk,
get their $550,000, they have cross appealed that fee amount. Although only Monica Rial and Ron Toye have done that cross appeal. Jamie Markey and Funimation notably did not actually appeal the fee award. Jamie Markey, it makes some sense because Jamie Markey got the fee award she asked for, but Funimation asked for $170,000 on their own.
If she got the amount that she asked for, why is it notable that she didn't ask for anything? What? You just said it was notable and then explained how it wasn't notable. Hey. If Vic had any legal standing, Nick ruined all of that. Yeah, I would agree with that. Hi, Marcy. Good to see you.
Fee award. Jamie Markey, it makes some sense because Jamie Markey got the fee award she asked for, but Funimation asked for $170,000 on their own and got $50,000. So they did not appeal that. And
there's a notable difference between Ron and Monica and Jamie and Funimation. Ron and Monica didn't get what they asked for, so they're appealing it. The same way Vic didn't get what he asked for, so he's appealing it. Jamie didn't need to because she got what she asked for, and Funimation is a giant fucking corporation, so maybe doesn't care that much. Like, you cannot compare Funimation to Monica Like, what the fuck?
and presumably they've missed their appeal window. We should be outside of their opportunity to appeal that issue at this point. So going forward, we will have an appeal from Vic's side on all of the judgments so far. That includes all of the dismissals. All 17 counts were dismissed, and they're appealing all of that. And they are similarly will be appealing the amount of attorney's fees as excessive, the $50,000 to each defendant, or as improper. Now, if they win on...
But I don't want to lessen this at all. $50,000 to each defendant is $200,000 out of Vic Mignogna's pocket. Just to be clear, that's already a pretty considerably large amount of money.
The first stuff, the amount of the attorney's fees will be taken away, because if your case shouldn't have been dismissed, then you don't get the award of the attorney's fees. Now, similarly, as all that's going on, all of the defendants will have to combat that appeal. Jamie Mark.
Sorry, I'm gonna pause real quick. I'm just gonna deal with something real quick, and I'll be right back. Just give me 1 second. All right. So just to be clear here, we have a lawyer going out making blatant accusations without demonstrating them, one-sidedly presenting the law without actually, again, demonstrating what the issue is. And I want to point out real quick, I don't know if you noticed, I had to pee. I don't know if you noticed, but he brought up Mars Girl at the beginning of this video, but hasn't actually said anything. Just that she picked up a tweet. A tweet was picked up by her. And that's it. That's the only accusation so far. So, weird? No?
And Funimation will have to file and combat that appeal as well. Now, in addition to that, Monica Rial and Ron Toye will be fighting for their appeal over the fees being too low for their award of a combined $100,000 plus some change. They will be fighting that and asking the appeals court to say that Judge Chupp abused his discretion and needs to award higher fees to them. And then, of course, Vic's team will be fighting against their cross appeal.
Why? You said why they were attacking Vic, right? And that it was defamation and why they were doing it. Why do they think they ought to be awarded higher fees? Is it because what you're saying is that what they're being awarded is attorney's fees. If the fees that they're being awarded do not equal the amount that they had to spend, then the appeal sounds suddenly really, really, really fucking reasonable, doesn't it? So why all you're saying is, well, they weren't awarded what they wanted. Well, what did they want, and is what they were asking for reasonable or not reasonable? Do you understand what I'm saying? These are basic questions that you would think would already be at the forefront of what he is saying, and for some reason they aren't. right? So why would this not be something that would be viable and interesting and the point of your video? If they were awarded $50,000 apiece, and the lawyers that they had to hire due to what was deemed to be Vic's frivolous case at this point in time, is it not reasonable that they would say, let's say it was they spent $75,000 on lawyers, is it not then reasonable to ask for $75,000? Why should Monica and Ron pay anything for what was deemed as Vic's frivolous lawsuit at all, period? Does that not set a bad precedent? I don't know. You tell me.
Appeal. So there's a lot that happened over the last year. This is actually a very fast moving case. I know it seems weird to say something that started in April and ended in November was fast moving, but it really was. The legal system on something of this magnitude.
Really? It was fast moving because the court was like, yeah, this is bullshit, and threw it out immediately. I feel like that's not a point in your favor, but sure. Yeah, I don't blame you for still being stuck on the... It's notable that she didn't ask for an appeal when she got exactly what she wanted. I don't know.
Moved very quickly, and that's because of the nature of the TCPA and how that works out. It's an expedited process. It's accelerated through the courts, and similarly, it should be accelerated through the appeals process as well. But don't let that get your hopes up that we're going to have some appeals action anytime really soon. Really, I would be expecting a couple months before we even see things kind of really start rolling into motion, with an estimated timeline between 6 to 12 months for resolution of the appeal. So we could have a 2020 that is monitoring this case for almost as long as we were monitoring it back in 2019. That remains to be seen. But that is where we are, where we're going, how we got here in a nutshell. Now, again, the transcript for the fees was released tonight, and it's really interesting. These transcripts that have come out since the initial hearing, the initial motion to dismiss hearing, in which Vic suffered a total loss on all 17 counts. And many people were concerned whether the judge would be prejudiced or something. I don't think so. I think the judge is just wrong, personally. But there were some allegations of unfairness and stuff like that. In the subsequent transcripts that have come out, the judge has seemed to be much more of a critic of the defendants and the defendants' counsel. And certainly the ruling of awarding only $50,000 out of $280,000 requested, or $100,000 out of the $280,000 requested by Monica Rial and Ron Toye, for example, is pretty...
Wow, my 75 was pretty close. Very funny. Yeah, the judge was just wrong 17 times, Mr. Serious. Yes, based on nothing. And now he's imposing reading the transcripts to interpreting them to his audience that the judge ruling this is still actually in Vic's favor.
That's a massive reduction in the amount of fees, and it certainly doesn't indicate any sort of favoritism or some sort of blowout performance by them. In fact, they seem rather unhappy with that award, and that's been very interesting to see how the judge has, or how the perceived perspective of the judge has changed as we go. Again, if you want to get involved in the long...
You think the judge has changed their... Okay. Not presented in this video, I guess.
Conversations, come check out the live streams, typically every weeknight at 11 p.m. Central, including tonight. If you happen to see this on the 3rd, come talk about it, come laugh, come have a shot of whiskey and relax. And we will talk about more legal stuff all this year. So look forward to seeing you soon. Remember to like and subscribe.
All right, we're gonna put the pause on that one. So, I don't know if you guys have been able to grasp sort of the situation that I'm trying to introduce to you, to what's being brought up here. What we've got is a legal YouTuber, and then a handful of outrage farmers, then latching onto that and going on what is ostensibly a harassment campaign on behalf of Vic Mignogna, where they are gonna you're gonna see these accusations come up over and over and over again. So this is just like, remember, even this video is the following year. This is January for something that was filed in April. So we're gonna have to go even further back to find out where any of these people actually started talking about this on YouTube. We're gonna have to dive into videos that they've made about Monica, about Jamie, about Ron, and about Mars Girl, because that was the other person that they brought up. So we're going to take a look. We're going to dive into this a little bit over the following month. We'll see you on Mondays for MOOOndays, because this is fucking some lolcow shit. That this baby fucking behavior. So April, sorry, did I say 2019? Yeah, April of 2019. Yeah. So we're going to have to go back a whole nother year and see if we can figure out where exactly this initiation was and where it kind of spun off from there. But I did want to bring you on the journey a little bit with me, so we're not necessarily going to see everything in order, but we are going to be able to look back with that 2020 vision, that hindsight. Honestly, I don't know how anybody fucking believed this person in the first place. Honestly, I have a hard time believing why anybody would go after other people based on the shakiest shit I have seen in my good goddamn life. It takes 30 seconds to look at Vic Mignogna to be like, yeah, alright, I can see why people would think this guy's kind of a fucking creep. Even if you don't believe some of the stories that have been told about him, just like his behaviors, his cadences, the way he talks about people, he's not a good guy. So to find out if you're a Nick Rakita fan, or if you were a Nick Rakita fan, or an Umbrella guy, or Yellow Flash fan, and you want to explain to me how you buy this bullshit, or what about this is convincing to you, please, by all means, let me know. If you're being earnest and have this fucking, have this opinion and you're not, a dick about it, you're more than welcome here. Nobody's gonna bully you over it. But, thank you for joining me. I'm gonna wrap up here. That's all of it. That's all for now. I've got a 4-hour interview. We're gonna watch this. This is gonna be a long one, so we'll probably look at this. This was on June 24th, 2021, so this was a year later. But we're not gonna do this right away, because I want to go back and see what I can find, and see if I can find a little bit more of an initiation to be like, where did all this start? Kind of the same way we did last week with the company, to be like, this is really what you guys are here for. And then we're going to kind of watch and see how it evolved with knowing where it is now, and how much of an abject failure these people had when it came to this entire case, and kind of maybe understand why, how he concluded. I'm going to try and do this YouTuber at a time. So we've got Nick Rakita here. I'm going to see if I can find an initiation from, or the first-ish video from that Umbrella guy, and the first-ish video of the Yellow Flash. We'll go through those two next week, and then we'll go back to Rakita, and we'll go back to each of them and see if we can find where they stopped covering it. So we'll do a one and then a bookend. So, and in between, we'll throw in, like, Vic Mignogna stuff. I'm curious to see this interview. I bet it's the most boring and also, like, the worst fucking thing you've ever seen in your life. I bet it's awful. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back reading more Project 2025 tomorrow, so if you're interested in Project 2025 and things that kind of are a little bit more actually very real life, important to your very real life, because don't get me wrong, this stuff is important to overarching culture. This stuff is important to, like, the YouTube landscape and kind of what you see and what you should expect, and how you can avoid yourself getting caught up in these kind of, like, schemes. And I do think this is important to, like, those people involved, like people who get dragged into frivolous lawsuits because YouTubers hyped up a fucking D-list voice actor. But Not to say that these things don't matter, but Project 2025 is definitely something that matters to your life directly and politically, even if you're not American. So if you want to join us for that and see what that awful, I'll be back tomorrow. And I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining me. This is awful. It's going to get worse. Bye!